What is that? YouTube. This is Kawi Eichler with EichlerEssence.com. Thanks for tuning in. This is free content, by the way, so if you don't mind, please share and like, comment, subscribe to my channel. I'd really, really, really appreciate it. Go and visit me also at EichlerEssence.com. And there's also, we've got Instagram, Eichler Essence is the name on our Instagram account. Twitter at Eichler Essence, and you can also find us on Facebook at Eichler Essence. So now that we got through all of that, what I want to talk about today is taking care of yourself. And I'm not just talking about taking care of your physical needs. I am pretty sure everybody understands and knows how to do that, but way too often what we end up doing is we neglect every other aspect of ourselves. So what are the aspects we have? We are physical, we are mental, emotional, we are spiritual beings, you guys. We are not just physical beings. So taking care of your physical self is great, but don't stop there. Please don't stop there. You need to also take care of yourself spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Now, how do you do that? Actually, before I get into that, I really want to talk about our society and our culture and how we've sort of built this dogma, if that's how you want to put it, around taking care of everybody else and neglecting ourselves. And I really, really, really think that that's why we have so much anxiety and so much stress in this world, because we don't take care of our our emotional and spiritual needs. We think that it is better to take care of everybody else first than it is to take care of ourselves. And a lot of the reason we believe that way, even people who are not believers, and they don't realize this, but even non-believers feel this way. And I really believe that comes from the wrong understanding of take up your cross, deny yourself, and follow me. Right? I don't remember exactly where that is in the word, but Yeshua said that, or Jesus, whatever you want to call him. He said, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. So the way that a lot of people interpret that is that we should neglect ourselves and suffer through it. Everybody else is more important. Is that really what it says, though? Is that really what God meant when he said that? Is that what he meant? Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, this is what I think he meant. That's great that you have an opinion. Great. But, and don't get me wrong, no offense, I don't want anyone's opinion but God's. So I want to know exactly what he meant when he said that. So if we read it in its context, based on that language that it was said in. By the way, if you don't realize this, the two languages in the Bible, well, I guess some people think that there's three, right? Aramaic, Greek, and Hebrew. Those are vastly different languages than English. The Bible, okay, if you translated it literally, word for word, from Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, whatever, into the English, our Bible would be way bigger. You would need to fill up an entire bookcase, okay? And so this is where we find the problem. Things get lost in translation. So let's go back to that scripture. And what is the scripture? I'm sorry, I just had a blank out there. So the scripture goes like this. Take up your cross, deny yourself, and follow me. That part, deny yourself. When you look at it in its context, what it really means, deny your flesh. If you don't know what that means, it is totally different than neglecting yourself. Not the same thing, you guys. Denying your flesh is denying those sinful desires to do whatever is selfish, whatever is hurtful to you and somebody else. I'm not going to get into the list of all those things, but hear me out here. Okay, so if it's not talking about neglecting yourself, here's a question. If you cannot take care of yourself, how can you take care of somebody else or something else? Let's say, for example, you are a entrepreneur. Okay, so you're putting all your time and effort and energy into this business, and you're completely forgetting about yourself. You're not spending time with yourself. You're not unplugging. You're not resting. You're not getting the sleep you need. You're not getting the nutrition you need. Do you think that you're going to last very long? Do you think that that business is really going to get as successful as it can be if you were to actually take care of yourself? It's not. It's not. You might be able to for a time, but guess what? You're going to suffer. You're going to end up on all kinds of medications, maybe even psychotherapy, because you're not taking care of yourself. I really think this is the reason why we have so many people who are on drugs, so many people who are literally just insane. They've gone insane because they don't take care of themselves. We are not just physical beings, we are spiritual. Okay, you need to take care of your spiritual self as well. So how do you do that? I've got 3 tips for doing that. Number 1, I got notes over here in case you're wondering what the heck I'm looking at. Number 1, spend time with yourself daily. You guys, I am not talking about taking hours out of your schedule to spend time with yourself. And I'm not talking about talking to yourself or talking to voices in your head. That's not what I mean. Okay? 5, 10 minutes maybe to unplug from the world. We've got things going on constantly. Because of the internet, people are contacting us 24/7. You can contact somebody through text messaging, through Messenger on Facebook or on any kind of social media outlet. There are video messaging systems. I mean, there's literally things going on all day. Like on my phone, it's like buzzing off the hook all the time. I literally have to turn on my do not disturb button so that my phone shuts up for long enough for me to literally just unplug. But when I do unplug, actually, I try to keep my phone away from me so that I'm not tempted to get on and do something, plug back in, essentially. Another thing that I do, aside from just unplugging, is I'll just sit in quiet. Okay, this is especially important if you've got small children because they are loud all the time, and that gets overwhelming. Especially for me, I get really stressed out when it's constantly, there's noise all the time. So I need that 5 to 10 minutes to really just no noise at all. I try to get outside. I don't do that all the time, obviously. I mean, it gets cold, wet. I don't want to be outside all the time, but I try to so that I can hear the nature sounds and just reconnect with creation. Something different than the internet, your phone, the sound of cars. I try to do that. Not everybody can do that though, because some of you live in cities that are really dense and there's like a lot of noise going on. Okay, well, this would be the one time that I would give an exception to being on your TV, but don't do anything else, but get on something like YouTube and search out nature sounds so that you can just hear the beauty of God's creation. And that will kind of get your hearing and your senses going, in a different direction than what we do all day long. Okay, so that's number one. Spend time with yourself daily, 5 to 10 minutes. Mostly it's only 5 minutes for me. That's really it. I also like to sit there with my coffee and just lounge and relax. And it doesn't really matter when you do this as long as you do it. I find it easier for me to do it first thing in the morning, when it's the quietest. But you can do it in the evening, before you go to bed. For some people, it might be the quietest at that time. So that's my first tip. Spend time with yourself. Number 2, spend time with God. This might be a shocker for you, but if you are a believer, you need to spend time with God. And I'm not talking, once again, I'm not talking about hours at a time. What you need to do is sit down and listen for his voice. If you don't know how to hear his voice, look, there's all sorts of resources you can look up online. Go do a Google search on hearing God's voice, on practicing his presence, as we like to call it. And it took me years really to refine that skill, to be able to hear the difference between God's voice and my own thoughts. And God is the perfect gentleman. He never yells. Unless, of course, your life is in danger, then he might get kind of loud because he's trying to get your attention, like now. But for the most part, if he's just talking to you, he's not going to yell at you. Okay? He's not going to raise his voice. It says in the word that he has a still, small voice. And you know what? There's a lot of noise out there. A lot. It gets loud out there. So you really need to be able to refine your skill on really hearing him. And that takes time. It took me some years to really refine that and understand the difference between my thoughts and his, and all the other noise and chatter out there. Okay, so 5-10 minutes, 15 is good as well. Another way to spend time with him is to read his word. How are you going to know him and understand him if you don't read his word, if you don't study, if you don't understand exactly what he meant from his perspective when he said whatever it is that he said in the Bible? How are you going to know that? I remember when we were traveling a lot because my husband was in the military, and so we were constantly like coming and going from different churches and everything. And the one thing that I felt like was really lacking is a full understanding of God and his character and who he was. And the only way I was able to really find that is by fully understanding from his perspective, not from man's perspective, but from his perspective, who he is. And so, the word says to study the word. I'm blanking out on that scripture. How does it go? Study the word, a workman not to be afraid, rightly dividing the word of truth. If there's a right way to divide the word, then there is a wrong way to do it. So try and figure that out. And so, that's another way to spend time with God. You get into his word so that you can really understand him and who he is and his character and everything. Don't just read it. Study it. Understand the history. Understand the culture. Understand everything about it. Don't just read it, okay? Okay, so that is the second tip I have for you. My third one, and this is actually my favorite. Hang on just a minute. My son's freaking out. Just a minute, buddy. I'm almost done. Okay, so that's a mom's life. Hashtag mom life. All right, so the third one, this is actually my favorite, and I have a really cool story to back this one up. You need at least one day a week to rest. I personally believe that the number one best day is on Saturday. And that is because when you study, when God said, You take the 6 days, and then on the seventh day you rest. Well, if you study that and see it in its context and the history and exactly what God meant when he said that, he's talking about on Saturdays. I'm not going to get into all the details. Maybe you don't fully believe in that, but you know, okay, this is not a salvational issue. However, you need 1 day every week to rest. And I'm not talking about staying in bed and sleeping all day. No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about spending time with your family, spending time with your congregation, and not working at all. Okay, now here's my story. When I was learning about the Sabbath, I was in college, and the church that I went to, it was a mega church. It was massive, 10 to 15,000 members. The pastor there, Pastor Wayne, he's pretty well known. If you look him up, you might actually know him. He was explaining the Sabbath and how it worked and why we should do it. I really appreciate that he did this, because there's a lot of congregations who don't really believe in this kind of thing. But so I really took it to heart. I was like, oh, okay, just a minute, buddy. I'm not done yet. Put it down on the table, and I'll come out in a minute. Okay. Where was I? Oh, okay. So I was in college, and yeah, I took it to heart, and I was like, oh, if God really wants me to do this, if this is a good thing, if he says this is a good thing for me, well, then now I want to do it. So I went out, and I determined that I was going to observe the Sabbath on Sunday, because that's when I thought, it was supposed to be done. And so before I started doing this, my grades were okay, C's and B's maybe. They weren't the greatest. But that semester, it was like the beginning of the semester when I started doing this, my grades skyrocketed. I mean, it was like my mental clarity was 100% better. I felt better. I felt happier, calmer, more at peace. I was able to get twice as much done as what I was able to do prior to that. So yeah, my grades jumped from C's and B's to all A's. And I was like, whoa, wow, kind of interesting. But by the end of the semester, I kind of vacillated back into, oh, this is so hard to do. I don't want to do this anymore. It'd be really nice to be able to have that one more day to study and do my work. I am not even kidding you guys. I suffered that semester. I was tired. My grades dropped back down to what they were. But the worst part is I got so sick just before we were entering into our finals. And I think it was laryngitis or something that I got. I had it for like 2 weeks to a month, and it was miserable. And I suffered through it, and by the end I suddenly realized, what am I doing? Why did I do this? Why did I go back to the way that I was doing things before when it was working so much better when I was observing the Sabbath? And I was like, okay, Lord, I learned my lesson. I'm going to go back to doing the Sabbath no matter what from now on. So I did. I went back to doing the Sabbath, and again, that next semester, boom, grades up. And because of that, if I had continued on the track that I was, not doing the Sabbath, I would not have been able to graduate cum laude like I did. So you need that, you guys. You need a day of rest. You need to just spend time with your family, get away from work. Who wants to work every single day all the time? You know what? There's a lot of people in this country who do that. I don't think they want to, but they do. There's so many workaholics in this country. Stop doing that. Slow down, calm down, and take care of yourself and spend time with God and rest. You take time off. It's been scientifically proven, by the way, if you work every single day of your life, eventually you will go crazy. I don't think you want to go crazy. I certainly don't. And Like the Sabbath is probably the one thing out of this whole list that I am consistent with every single week. And I love it. I absolutely love the Sabbath. And like I said, I'm not going to get into when the Sabbath actually is supposed to be done. Whatever you believe, it's not a salvational issue. You need a day of rest. Give yourself that. You deserve it. So those are my tips. Spend time with yourself daily. Spend time with God daily. And take at least one day off every week. Don't work, okay? Don't do that. And that's it, guys. I'm so grateful that you watched. If you like this, please subscribe to this channel. Make sure you hit the bell so that you can get notifications from me every time there's a new video up. I'm doing these videos, these lives, every day. Well, not every day. Like I said, I need to take a day of rest. No, actually, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Those are the days that I am able to do this. All of the rest of the days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I will not be doing any live videos, but I'll be doing them live here on YouTube at 9:30. If you would like to see me on Facebook, I'll be doing it at 9. And, yeah, but I'll be talking about the same thing. So, doesn't matter whichever one you want to do. So please share, subscribe, like, whatever. If you didn't like this, well, thanks for stopping by, but please don't be rude and leave a thumbs down. That's just not cool. But thanks for stopping by, you guys. You are awesome. I love you. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.